Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to today's Caffeine for the Soul. And if you like the things that we talk about in these shows, you might want to check out our free basic course in the Inside Out Understanding, and you can find out more at michaelneill.org/basic course. I was sharing this story with a client earlier today. It was a story I remember hearing I was really into football at all levels as a kid, and I would read incessantly. And there was a story about a kid who was a college star, and he was from one of the Midwestern schools, and he was just a hugely talented running back, and a very humble guy, and he was asked to come in. There was some sort of incident at the college, and he was asked to come in because there was an actual trial to vouch for the character of this other person on the team, and so people had respect for him, and he came in, and they brought him up on the stand, and they swore him in, and they said, so and what's your name, son? And he said, and what do you do? Oh, I play football, sir. And are you any good? Oh, I'm the best in the country. And there's a little bit of a kind of a ripple in the room, but they carried on, and he did his thing. And after the trial, his coach, had been there to kind of support him and the other player, he said, look, I'm going to say his name was Frank. Frank, I have to be honest, I was a little surprised when you said that about being the best football player in the country. And the player looked a little kind of embarrassed, and he said, well, coach, what could I do? I was under oath. Now, there's a thing that we kind of have gotten confused in our culture where you're not supposed to, be proud. You're supposed to be humble. You're not supposed to, don't pump up your ego. Remember don't get too big for your boots, too big for your britches. You're fine. But, don't start thinking you're all that. And it's sort of, I think it really is a well-meaning kind of a thing. But for a lot of us, the net effect of growing up being told not to get too full of ourselves is that we lose the ability to appreciate what we're capable of, to value what we do, to realize that we matter, not because of what we do, but we matter because all humans matter. And when you're taught from a very early age that don't get full of yourself, in a way, how many of us hear that is, you don't matter. Don't think you matter. Now, what I think's really being saying is don't think you matter more than everybody else. But winds up being heard a lot of the time, and was certainly heard by me growing up, is you matter less than everybody else. And so in my world, ego was this terrible thing, and pride, that's pride. It's kind of pretty much ego, and it goes before a fall, and you need to learn to be humble, and it led to this real love-hate with my own work and my own accomplishments, because I loved doing what I did, and I was very good at what I did, but I knew I wasn't supposed to think that. So I felt really uncomfortable anytime that somebody said anything nice about what I did, and I'd quickly, oh, no. And I remember one time I was sitting at a conference, and I found myself sitting next to the Scottish mystic Syd Banks' wife. Now, Syd had been dead for a number of years by then, and it occurred to me, we just happened to be sitting next to each other, listening to a lecture of. And this was a whole conference about Syd's teachings and his work, the 3 principles, the Inside Out Understanding. And I kind of, thought, I wonder how Syd used to deal with this, because he was a really humble guy. And I bet he must have found it really uncomfortable. And so I remember I waited till afterwards, and, before she got up, I said, I hope it's okay that can I just ask you a question? And she said, sure. I said, did Syd find it really uncomfortable when people would come up to him and talk about how amazing he was and how amazing his work was? And she just looked at me and went, no, never, and walked off. And I realized in that moment that I had made up this whole story that conflated being proud of what you do, valuing what you do, with being arrogant or egotistical or thinking that you're better than. And in fact, one of the most helpful things that I heard in relation to it was a quote from Syd. And he said, humility isn't thinking less of yourself. It's just thinking of yourself less. We don't have to spend all our time getting it right, thinking about, well, how am I doing? Am I too much this? Am I not enough this? We actually can just be ourselves without continually evaluating ourselves, without continually judging ourselves against some standard that we're not even quite sure what it is or where it came from. That leaves us with the feeling that we're kind of better off not mattering, even if we kind of know that we do matter and that what we do matters, but we shouldn't matter because we shouldn't think we matter. And we can think of ourselves so much. And that's what ego really is. Another quote I've shared on these podcasts incessantly because it was so impactful to me was when Syd said, if you drop your ego, your image of self-importance, in other words, just your self-image, the way you think of yourself. If you drop your ego, your image of self-importance, and just be you, whoever that is, you'll find the secret to heaven here on earth. You'll discover that you're not who you think you are. You're something nicer, far better, really nice. And when it's okay with you that you matter, you start to recognize that you matter. You start to take pride in what you do, not because you're prideful, but because it's so much more satisfying to do what you do to a level where you can take pride in it. You no longer are inclined to kind of half-ass your way through whatever it is you do and see how much you can get away with and kind of hide and skulk in the corner and laugh at the people who are out there trying to do it right when you're getting away with it and they think they've got it. Well, what if? What if you matter? What if what you do matters? And what if that's okay? And what if that's enough? And what if that's not egotistical? It's actually the opposite. It's just being yourself, whoever you are, and taking pride in what you do. Have fun, learn heaps, happy exploring, and I'll talk with you soon.